Exactly what Tums and I were talking about. We go back to our focus on the unemployment crisis, the jobs emergency here in South Africa. And one of the biggest challenges in the country is the fact that millions of South Africans are jobless. Figures released by Stats SA yesterday showing young people have become discouraged with the labour market. And business editor, Devin Murrigan, that can't be good news. It's one thing not to be able to find a job, but it's one thing, quite another thing to have those who don't want to try and go out and find work. So the latest numbers confirming yet again that essentially young South Africans are simply not in jobs, are they?
Yeah, no, you've guessed it. I mean, just to give you a quick roundup of what the numbers are looking like, Gareth. So we've heard yesterday 35.3%. That translates to just under 8 million people in South Africa officially out of work. But I want to zone in on one particular group. And we mentioned that this morning or yesterday morning ahead of those numbers. Let's take a quick look. And that's that youth bracket you mentioned just a while ago, all right? 15 to 24 years old. Yesterday's numbers confirming once again that there are 10.2 million people in this category. And look at that number. There are 3.4 million people not in education, not in any form of training, and they're not employed. That's the focus that eNCA will be looking at this morning, because for some reason or the other, in fact, we know the reasons, these bracket of youngsters are not being absorbed by the economy. Is it skill? Is it opportunity that's not afforded to them? What about government intervention? We've had employment tax initiatives. We've seen the corporate sector benefit from moves to bring down the corporate tax. So why aren't they being absorbed, Gareth? It's a critical crisis. 3.5 million people not doing anything at home, especially youngsters. It doesn't bode well for the fortunes just going forward on the economic side.
So earlier, I'm not sure if you saw the interview that I had with Aisha Ismail, Devin. She spoke to a graduate, fresh out of matric, went and got himself 2 degrees. I was talking to Tumza about it as well. It's an issue of young people who do secure a matric certificate, 1, and then 2, a tertiary qualification. But it doesn't seem, and tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if you agree, it doesn't seem to change their fortunes, or does it?
I think it's an incredibly important point, Gareth. And if you look at what Stats SA had said in their latest labour force survey released yesterday, it points or addresses to what you're talking about. Let's just quickly take a look at what your chances are depending on what level of education you have, especially in that bracket. All right, if you have less than matric, you just fall in that bracket of a 40% unemployment rate, all right? Once you attain the matric, chances get a bit better, but look at that. That number at 37.7, that's the employment rate for that group of people, is still not good. The moment you start getting a tertiary education, it improves. But to your point, even if you hold a degree as a young person or older in this country, you're still in a bracket of unemployed people, and that percentage point of unemployment is 11.8%. And that really speaks to the fact that, yes, indeed, your chances of finding work, depending on your education level, does improve. But the economy is still not absorbing, irrespective of your skill. So that's what eNCA will focus on today. Some of the initiatives our reporters would look at by government and seeing how effective they were. But at the same time, why isn't the economy absorbing even people with some sort of education? I think that the opportunities for semi-skilled people, and this is important, Gareth, semi-skilled people are just are not present. They're not available. And that's what we will look at later on as our reporters do those crossings throughout the day, Gareth.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're going to be focusing on that. I'm glad you've broken it down based on the qualification levels as well, Devin Murrigan, eNCA business editor, because that's what so many people talk about, that if I get a matric, surely I'll find a job. If I get a degree, surely I'll find a job. It doesn't seem to be the case. But we're back with Devin again as he unpacks that for us later in the day.